I don't know if any of you guys have heard about this article in the New York Times. Well, apparently, honeybees are just disappearing all over the country. Tens of millions of them. All right, let's hear some theories about why this might be happening. Nobody? You're not interested in what happened to the bees?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Lobby, a Real Lovers podcast. My name is Marley Silverbrand, and you know what? I think hot dogs get a bad rap.
That's right.
And people, if people aren't confused by that, you probably already know that we are continuing our M. Night Shyamalan retrospective series with M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening, released in 2008. And joining me on this episode is the host of the Movie Friends podcast, Seth Vargas. How you doing, Seth?
I'm doing quite well. I'm excited to be here to talk about a very misunderstood and underappreciated film.
And filmmaker, too. M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes. I was just on another show a few days ago, and we started talking about Shyamalan, and I started to get real heated.
I feel like that's like a classic response, just a typical response with M. Night Shyamalan fans, is because, especially like reading some of the Letterboxd reviews on this movie specifically, that people don't like this movie very much. Mm-hmm. But I have to ask you, Seth, do you like hot dogs? Like,
I do actually. I really do like hot dogs. For me, hot dogs are a wonderful vehicle for other things, much like soup or pizza. My only gripe with a hot dog is there has to be some variation in texture. So if you boil a mid-size hot dog and just put it in a bun with ketchup, it's too soft. So if you grill that same hot dog to death and get it crispy, that's something. But if you can't do that, you have to put something crunchy like potato chips or whatever in it to...
Potato chips on a hot dog? Is that
Oh,
that
yeah,
thing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is that an East Coast thing? I don't think
I don't know. That's a Seth thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll put anything and everything. Have you ever had a hot dog with cream cheese?
No, but now you're just making me hungry at this point.
Take your bun and just smear a little line of cream cheese in it, and then put your hot dog together as normal.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it makes it very rich.
One thing that you mentioned is that you boil your hot dogs too. Like I think I've boiled my hot dogs like maybe once or twice in my life.
Yeah.
Just because I had a teacher in high school that would always talk about hot dog soup.
Oh, okay.
Like during college, that's how he would get through the rough months in college, just hot dog soup. And I'm like, that always sounded disgusting to me. But we're not here to talk about hot dogs as much as we like to. What's your favorite hot dog topping? Let us know in the comments down below on YouTube. That will get very interesting. I'm just a plain mustard guy. Like, I'm just a plain mustard guy, to be honest. But we're talking about The Happening, released in 2008, like I mentioned, written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. This film grossed a total of $163 million worldwide with a $48 million budget. And James Newton Howard composed the music. This film also stars Mark Wahlberg, Zooey Deschanel, John Leguizamo, Ashlyn Sanchez, Betty Buckley, which I'm quickly discovering that she's like a staple supporting actor in all of M. Night Shyamalan's films. It's because she was also in Split as a therapist. And then I think she's in Trap as well. But Spencer Breslin, Robert Bailey Jr., Frank Collison, and then who's on screen, Seth?
Who's Oscar-nominated, Academy Award-nominated actor Jeremy Strong.
Kendall Roy.
Yes.
I am the eldest boy.
Yes.
I had to get that one in there. Really great cast all around. Yeah, when Jeremy Strong popped up, I was just I think you text me and I was just like, it made your day a little bit. Yeah.
He's the best, and he was the key for me in this movie, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later for sure, but I'm just going to read the synopsis here from Letterboxd just real quick. When a deadly airborne virus threatens to wipe out the northeastern United States, teacher Elliot Moore, played by Mark Wahlberg, and his wife Alma flee, Zoe Deschanel, from contaminated cities into the countryside in a fight to discover the truth. Is it terrorism? The accidental release of some toxic military bioweapon? Or something even more sinister? Seth, like I mentioned, this came out in 2008. What's your history with the happening? Oh. Seth, you there?
Sorry.
It's okay.
I had to call for my son while you were reading that. I was like, this will be a good time.
Okay.
In the beginning stages of a cold, so I had to blow my nose real quick.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I didn't see this when it first came out because my best friend at the time went to see it in theaters. I think in 2008, I think I may have been I would have been in school at that point, and I was living in a very small town, and going to the theater wasn't an all the time thing, right? And we loved Shyamalan. Every movie of his, it was just like Jordan Peele today. It's like, we're going to see the next one. And he called me after leaving the theater and was like, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. Terrible. Don't go see it. And so I was just kind of, oh, wow, okay. And that's where I left it for years and years. And then I would say maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think I had decided to watch all of his films that I hadn't seen yet, because at a certain point, I just dropped off. As people were talking about like After Earth and Avatar, I was like, oh, I guess I don't need to see his other movies. And then for some reason, I was like, I guess I will watch the rest of them. I think I had seen like The Visit and maybe at that point Split. And hunkered down for The Happening, prepared myself for the worst. And as the movie progressed, I was like, there's something odd about this. There's something, it's not that it's bad, but there's something very peculiar happening. And I watched it up until the moment where Jeremy Strong appears. Now, at this point, Jeremy Strong had been working for years. I had no idea who he was. This is my first time encountering him. And when the passengers of the car tell him that the place that they just came from, it's happening there too, and he looks down at the ground and says, cheese and crackers, and delivers it so seriously, I was like, oh my God, I know exactly what this is. This is a spoof movie. He's having fun. This is bad on purpose. And then for the rest of the movie, I just had a great, amazing time with it. And as soon as it ended, I looked up M. Night Shyamalan on The Happening.
Yeah.
And I found, I think, 3 different articles and interviews with him talking about how the movie, they pulled a switcheroo on the audience and the audience didn't appreciate it. No one got that it was supposed to be funny. And I've defended and championed this movie at every chance that I get, and people just will not accept that it's supposed to be funny, and that's a tragedy.
Yeah, it goes into what we were talking about at the beginning. It's M. Night Shyamalan will just continue to be misunderstood, but I love that he will continue to make movies like this and continue to push the envelope on, because I hate using that term because it's way overused, but it's I'm just glad that he's making movies, especially like this. I remember when I first saw The Happening, I saw it in theaters, and I didn't know really what to expect. Like, I knew it was going to be like end of the world, like type stuff, because that's how the trailers were pushing it. And I hate to admit it, but I was like one of those people. This is the worst thing ever. Like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. And only recently, like when I did this rewatch, it started clicking for me. Just because I've seen a lot of bad movies recently, and M. Night Shyamalan has, especially in the behind the scenes, like on the DVD, he says that he really loved like those movies like The Blob, like from the 80s, and those specifically those B movies, and he wanted to like pay homage to those movies. And on rewatch, I can definitely see where he was going with this. And I think he hit the nail right on the head. And also, he adds way more substance than this movie's. I haven't seen The Blob, but he adds. It's really good.
So good. The '80s one, the original one with Steve McQueen, is not good. And also, we're used to seeing Steve McQueen like as a little bit older, and he's playing a high school student in that. And it's just you are a man. You are an adult man. You are a prisoner in a POW camp in The Great Escape. You are Thomas Crown. So that part is hard to process. But the '80s version rules. Incredible. I will say, like, when we think about great practical effects in horror, usually we'll talk about like The Thing. It's close to that. It's close to that level. Awesome.
I definitely want to check it out, especially after this. But it's funny you say that about Steve McQueen playing like a high school student. You said that's what M. Night Shyamalan was doing here by casting Mark Wahlberg as a high school teacher. Immediately when he comes on screen and he's teaching those kids in that high school class, I'm like, no, I'm sorry. And the way he hits on that, or not, I wouldn't say hit on, but the dialogue definitely came across as, oh, you're gonna have a beautiful face like one day.
It's a little weird, right?
Just a little weird.
Yep.
But I think, but it's definitely what M. Night was going for, and it's and I love him. I love him for that. I love him even more for that he went there. But what I was saying, like, this movie still has that substance too, where it's like how a family gets through like a tragedy like this, and how they stick together, and how the love for each other can grow. You still have those little bits and pieces that we all grow to love M. Night Shyamalan for his movies. But yeah, I think what I'm discovering as I'm doing this series, I've always loved like the charm of M. Night Shyamalan movies, but as I'm going through these movies that I've already seen, discovering that I love them more on rewatch. But yeah, I think I already went through some of the just like the fun facts. This movie, like I said, grossed $163 million worldwide, $64 million in the US. And then opening weekend, it was 30 million, which is actually pretty good for an opening weekend, don't you think? It's just
yeah. Especially back then, talking less inflation.
Yeah, for sure. There's no tariffs. No tariffs.
Yeah, that's such a good testament to how willing people were to just go see the next M. Night Shyamalan movie, because once word of mouth started, it was already too late because people had already gone to see because they were just seeing it like as soon as possible. And yes, like I think things around Lady in the Water people weren't as into. You got Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, The Village, Lady in the Water, and then this. And so there was still a lot of momentum for seeing this day one.
Yeah, for sure. He's got like that movie name for sure. Like when you see it in trailers, even now, like even if I'm not a fan, I see M. Night Shyamalan, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to see that. That guy seems serious.
Yep.
But yeah, should we get into kind of breaking down this movie a little bit? Unless you have anything else to bring up. Yeah, I love the way that kind of going on to like how off-putting this movie is. I love how this movie starts. Because it's like it starts off like a traditional kind of M. Night thriller, and then the whole stabbing of the neck, and the way it's so pronounced on who has like a freaking like it's kind of like a sewing needle or whatever. Not a sewing.
Yeah, it's like it's a hair.
What's the knitting? It's a knitting needle, like
like they call them hair chopsticks.
Yeah,
which were popular around the turn of the century. But this is more like a hair knitting needle.
Yeah, but basically it starts off with these two women just sitting on the bench, and they're just having a conversation, and then you see people out of nowhere walk backwards, and the woman sitting next to this other woman starts speaking gibberish, and she reaches in her hair.
It's very unsettling.
Yes.
I always appreciate in my nightmares the thing that you can't quite express to someone once you've woken up. You say, and then this person, they were walking backwards, and you can't express to them why that's so scary, but in your head you know that it's wrong and something's just off.
Hmm.
And that's how this whole opening is. It's like something's just slightly off. And I think it's pretty well done.
I think it's well done too, just because I just love how everything's shot, because M. Night Shyamalan's very known for using a bunch of close-up shots.
Yeah.
And then like more people going through like killing themselves, and you're like wondering, you're asking so many questions in your head, what's going on? What's going on? You get the infamous shot of the bodies jumping off the rooftop, like after the construction workers are on the ground. What's going on? What's going on?
Yep.
And,
which again, I will say is, if you think about being there, that would be really horrifying.
yeah,
like, that would be really terrifying.
Yeah, it would be terrifying, but I don't know what this says about my mental state right now. All I thought, like when I saw that shot of the bodies jumping down, I just had "It's Raining Men" like playing in my brain. It's so messed up, but it's raining men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what it was technically.
It literally is, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's such a really great shot and really sets like the tone, and then you get like a jump cut to the high school, like we already mentioned, where we get the reveal of Mark Wahlberg teaching his high school students about bees.
Man of science, Mark Wahlberg.
Marky Mark. I think for the rest of this kind of like breakdown, we need to just call him Marky Mark at this point.
Sure,
I think it would make it more. It'll make more sense. But it's a great scene just because it's so cheesy and the dialogue is so like awkward, and I love how jump cuts like right to that classroom, just because you just witness something horrific and you're just like, oh my god, I think I'm ready. And then you get like this kind of like light awkward dialogue of Mark Wahlberg. Just, I don't know how many times he said okay in this movie, but he said it a lot.
That's funny. I don't know that I noticed. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, where are you going to go? Okay. 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 It's just, but I think one of the criticisms that I saw like on the Letterboxd like reviews is that they didn't necessarily care for like the awkward dialogue. And I've said this before on the previous episode of the series that we're doing. And it's people always like critique M. Night Shyamalan's dialogue just because it doesn't sound like the dialogue that you typically hear in movies, or even it doesn't sound like real life. But like my pushback on that is like everyone like takes in dialects and the way people talk differently just because.
Yeah.
And this is just how M. Night Shyamalan hears people. This is his world. These are the characters that he created, and this is what he wants us to believe that he thinks people would sound in this situation. Especially like when things start going down, like after this opening sequence with Mark Wahlberg, and he gets pulled out of the classroom. He gets pulled out of the classroom after he just freaking like verbally assaults like that kid in the classroom and kind of embarrasses him. So I thought he was getting pulled out for that, because it's you're gonna get fired because you can't really. But he gets pulled out of the classroom too because there's like this all this stuff over the news, and people are like they hear about people jumping off and killing themselves like in like downtown New York, and they think it's gonna come to Philadelphia, which is a running theme in M. Night Shyamalan movies, where it's always in Philadelphia.
Big Philadelphia guy.
Yeah. I think someone called him the mayor of Philadelphia. But
the mayor. But you know what? Hey, that's everything in film is in like New York or California.
Yeah.
You know, let him do it, I say.
I don't know if anyone's brought up this theory yet, but it would be very interesting if someone would tie together like make connections to see if every single M. Night Shyamalan movie was connected to Philadelphia, like they all existed in the same universe. Like the whole, like maybe this is part of Unbreakable. David Dunn walking around just in his freaking jail.
Did David Dunn survive The Happening?
Yeah, maybe.
That's actually really interesting, because whatever it is takes you over, and then you are compelled to commit suicide. And so I guess he would know that he could drown, so he could drown himself. But it'd be funny if David Dunn jumped off of a bridge and then was like, "Oh, I'm okay."
He jumps off of a bridge and he's okay, but he walks into the water and he's just walks in like knee deep and continues walking. Just yeah, but I don't know. I could, maybe we could have something like that in the background or something like that. Yeah, but obviously we get like this meeting with all the teachers there and everyone's freaking out. And this is the thing that I really liked about like this movie, just because it's very topical for what we're going through now about like how we all handle like major events and how people react. And especially like this movie came out in 2008, like right before the first iPhone like came out. So this is you see a lot of like old cell phones and people like trying to call like their family. And I hate to date myself, but like I actually remember like those days like being on this school playground and kind of and seeing like adults like calling like around 9/11, like when when all that stuff went down. So I like this scene just because it shows like how humans react in this situation. But do you have any thoughts about this?
The only thing I'll say is to add to the idea that this is supposed to be a comedy. Throughout the film, almost everyone who makes like a little appearance they're actors who are capable of doing drama and have done drama, but it's usually people who are known more so for being able to handle comedy. And in this one, we get another foreshadowing Succession, because I think it's the principal. Yeah, the principal is played by Alan Ruck, who would go on to be one of the Succession boys. Connor?
Oh, I haven't seen Succession. I just know Jeremy Strong from The Menu. He's in The Menu, right?
No.
I thought he was.
No, he's not in The Menu.
Hold on. Sorry, I gotta look.
He's in The Gentleman. He's in The Judge.
Big Short.
The Big Short.
Yeah, I know him from that.
But most people would know Alan Ruck from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which it's funny that he is now playing a principal giving all the kids a day off. And that's probably a little bit of a reach and probably not Shyamalan's intention, but it's a funny little connection. And then Wahlberg, when the vice principal shows up and he's, "Ooh, look out, everybody." It's funny.
It's real funny.
Yeah.
That's a really great poll, and it reminds me of the poll that you mentioned on your podcast, Seth, when you reviewed Trap, when you made about the FBI agent. She was in The Parent Trap.
Yeah, she's the original twins from The Parent Trap. And you're making a movie about a parent who's trapped.
Yeah. So maybe M. Night Shyamalan just messing with us at this point.
I think you can tell. Watch an interview with this guy. Over the year, I have the gift of being very old and having followed his career from pretty much day one. I saw The Sixth Sense way too young. It freaked me out. But the way that people talk about growing up with Spielberg films or whatever, my equivalent would probably be like Shyamalan. And he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. He's a nice guy. He's a warm guy. I've never heard any actors talk about not enjoying being part of his movies. And if you look at his films, even when he was in his lull period, he still had big name actors wanting to work with him.
Right.
So
the only sort of actor that kind of, it's not, I don't think he had a bad relationship, but it's Mark Wahlberg. I've never really heard him say like, he didn't hate Shyamalan, but he also was like, I don't get it. I don't get that.
Yeah.
He was like, trees, man, grass, trees.
Yeah.
I'm like, But I think that, not trying to hate on Mark Wahlberg or Marky Mark, I think that might have something to do with him. But but yeah, but he's great. He's great in this, even though he doesn't get it. So I think Shyamalan really knew how to use him.
Yeah, I think that and again, Mark Wahlberg, we've seen him be funny. Everybody likes the other guys, right? He was in Boogie Nights. He had good comedic sensibilities in that for being whiny and throwing little fits here and there. And I wouldn't call him some kind of comedic genius, but I think that he's funny. Yeah, I think that he's funny.
Yeah, when the right directors come along and know how to use his comedy well, it works. And I
Yes.
always bring this up whenever we're talking about like a comedy like on the show. I always bring up the whole Vince Gilligan quote when he was talking about working on Breaking Bad. He always
Hmm.
used to like to find comedic actors just because if you can do comedy, you can also do drama because when there's
Yes.
something horrific going down, the audience wants some funny to pull them through. That's what
Hmm.
Shyamalan does really well here, where you just have the all the brutal death scenes. I don't think the death scenes, especially on rewatch, I don't think they're that bad. Like this is I think this is M Night Shyamalan's first rated R movie, which
I think so. Yeah.
and I remember sneaking into this movie because obviously no, it was
Oh,
2000. It was 2008.
yeah.
I was the appropriate age.
Yeah.
Not I tried to make myself seem younger at that right there. But I remember saying, "Oh, graphic violence," and I'm like, "There's some death scenes in here that are pretty graphic, but
Oh,
Shyamalan kind of pulls away a little bit." So
no, I don't like to disagree with anyone, but this I think is some of the most visceral violence that he had filmed up to this point. In The Sixth Sense, you have the one shot where the ghost kid turns away from Cole and you see the gunshot wound on the
oh
back of
yeah,
his head. But a lot of Shyamalan's scare stuff was more Hitchcock tension,
hmm
but because he's doing a disaster slash creature feature, which is we
hmm
never see the creature or know what the disaster is.
yeah,
He leans into more. We see a dude get run over by a lawnmower,
yeah. that, that was
and it's
ridiculous.
kind of like,
Like
oh wow. And I think that was also hard for people to stomach. Is people don't like big tonal shifts. They just don't. They don't want to see someone get stabbed with the hair chopstick and then Mark Wahlberg talk to a rubber plant. Like they can't. And it's nothing against them. I'm not trying to be like, oh, the normies couldn't handle this work of genius. It's just people are like, wait, what mood am I in?
and especially we don't want to see Mark Wahlberg talk to a rubber plant because like immediately before that, Shyamalan kills two kids. Like it's
Yes.
like I know we're jumping at we jumped really far ahead, but that was shocking to me. I remember it was like I don't think I was remember being shocked in the theater just because I was just like I didn't know how to process this, but what a shift. And also you don't necessarily see that a lot, but I think it's
You don't.
it's interesting just because Shyamalan, the way Shyamalan uses kids, I always refer it to as very Spielbergian, where
Hmm.
he likes. I feel like when he like killed those two kids, it was like it was definitely like a shoe was gonna like a big shoe dropped, and it's just
Yes.
like, okay, we need to take this seriously now. Like they
Yes.
were taking it seriously up to that point, but they just lost these people,
Yeah.
and they didn't do anything wrong at that point. It's shocking. I know we jumped pretty far ahead, but what do you think about that sequence? Like the when they're at that house and they're trying to get in, they're just trying to get food, and yeah,
Yeah. The one kid is a little bratty,
yeah,
but then and again, it's pretty graphic. He gets shot with a shotgun, I
yeah.
believe. It's not a rifle or anything. And then you got Mark Wahlberg. You'll be okay, or he'll be okay, or like something.
So, I don't think it's
And
gonna be okay.
it's very dark, but it's also very funny.
Just because you don't see the person that shot at this kid, you just see
Mhm.
like the barrel of the gun, and the last kid that gets shot, I think it was the black kid that they were
Mhm.
with. It's just they pull away, and you all you hear is it's just aimed right at his head,
Yep.
and then you just see a shot of Mark's face, just like looking in horror, and
Yep.
it's insane. It's insane. I
Yep.
think it's
Wh-
the most graphic thing in the entire movie. To be
What are the
honest,
kids' name? Do you know what the kids' names are? I can't remember.
I can't remember. I can look it up in my notes if it's.
It's something.
Hold on. We
Yeah,
can. I can cut all
I'm
this out.
looking too. Yeah, I don't want to hold this up. I just feel like it
um,
was a funny name, and he keeps saying it over and over.
is it Jake? No, that's not.
Can't.
The kids. Are you gonna look? Are you googling?
Oh, I'm not Googling. I'm just going through the list, the whole.
I'm just gonna kids in the happening. Just Google.
This is gonna be so not worth it. Like the kid's name is gonna be like Bill
This
or
is
something.
Josh and Jared.
Josh and Jared. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Never mind. I don't. Yeah,
Okay. I can cut that part out. It's okay.
go for it. Go for it.
But yeah, really graphic scene. I like you mentioned like the lawnmower death scene was pretty
Hmm.
graphic
Hmm.
for you. I thought that was funny, to be
Oh
honest.
yeah, it's very funny. Oh
It's
yeah.
it's very funny just because the guy starts the lawnmower and it just starts driving and turning on its own. Who's turning the lawn? And then he's just, no, I'm tired. I'm gonna lay down.
Yeah. I also love. I can't remember. I believe it's in the beginning,
Mhm.
but the traffic is stopped, and a
Oh,
police
it's
officer walks up to a cab driver
yeah.
and just starts. They talk to each other by name. And that's such a funny idea and it's
Just
such a
having a
movie
conversation,
idea
just like
that
with
a
just
random cop is going to know a
just
random
you good?
taxi driver. Yeah, be like, Bill, what's going on?
Oh no.
Are you there?
I think I'm there.
Oh, okay. You froze for a second.
Okay. I don't know why it froze, but yeah, that's like a funny thing just to have a cop just refer to someone by name.
Mhm.
But that's a really great shot too, where it starts off with the cop and it's that same shot that you see in The Sixth Sense with the car like stuck in the traffic jam and the camera
Mhm.
like pans back and it just follows the gun where the cop shoots themselves,
Mhm.
guns like on the ground and the next person comes to pick it up and it's just following all that. Really
Yep.
great long take, and the cinematographer for this movie is Fujimoto, which I believe
Yes.
has shot True Detective. That
He's a legend.
yeah, he's a
Yes.
legend. But didn't he shoot that legendary long take shot from True Detective? I believe.
That I'm not sure.
I'm
But
pretty sure.
what I always bring up when people talk about how this movie sucks is I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the cinematographer of Terrence Malick's Badlands did not know what he was doing when he made
Exactly.
this movie. And that was another thing as I was watching. You already mentioned Shyamalan likes his close up shots.
Hmm.
These are extreme, like really extreme close ups. And if I knew more about lenses, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some very specific choices in what lenses they're using to warp and extend their faces. And that was something that as I was watching, I wrote down in my notes my first time. I was like, who is shooting this?
Yeah.
It's so specific. Yeah. When you watch enough bad movies, you're able to be like, I know what they were going for and I see where they missed it. But then there's times where you're like, oh no, they're doing something. And so when I saw who it was, this guy shot The Silence of the Lambs. Like he shot Philadelphia, Death Race 2000, which is a really low budget movie from 1975, but is awesome. Like it's a really great B movie.
Yeah. He shot Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
There you
Like
go.
going
Yeah.
back to
There you
going
go.
back to those ties again. So he's playing with this again. This is what Shyamalan he wants the audience to have a good time. For people that actually
Yes.
look for this stuff, he thinks that like when they figure this stuff out, they will love this. But I also talk about like another and like in previous episodes of the series is that like Tak Fujimoto like he also shot The Sixth Sense and Signs as well, and
Yes.
everyone's like, how is he getting like all these people in his movies, like these really talented people in his movies, all these big time actors? It's because Shyamalan comes in with a plan with all of his movies. This is why you get like the great Roger Deakins shooting The Village,
Yeah.
or even like his most recent film, the person that shot Challengers also shot Trap.
Yeah.
Like cinematographers, like especially for someone that shoots with my mirrorless camera, we go in with a plan, and like when you have a director that knows storyboards like all of his shots, that just makes their job easier. And actors also like that too because you get a picture of the movie before you actually start shooting.
Yeah.
So Shyamalan is meticulous, and his meticulousness pays off for sure. But
Yeah. Yeah. I think one problem that I never have a problem if someone doesn't like a movie because I don't like a lot of movies that people really love. And I don't want to be ridiculed for it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that you have to like The Happening. I don't think that you have to like every movie that Shyamalan has put out, but you can't say that he doesn't know how to make a movie. He's just making choices that you don't like. That's what it comes down to. He knows how to make movies. He could have made The Sixth Sense 20 times.
But he chose to
If
make it that once. Yeah.
he made it one time, and then
Yeah.
he did a different thing, and then a different thing. And something that I realized, I think when I did an episode on Trap and just thinking about Trap, something that I realized about him is that he does tell the same story over and over again. And it's almost always about a family being in one location or being trapped, yes, obviously,
Yeah.
but being unable to leave. And so the very, very obvious ones are The Visit, Old, they can't leave the beach,
Yeah.
Trap, The Village, Signs. Eventually, in Signs, they can't leave the house. The cornfield is all around them. And then in The Happening, we whittle our way down. It's like a funnel. We start in the big cities,
Yeah.
and then the characters whittle their way down until it's Zoe Deschanel and Mark Wahlberg, and they can't leave their little rooms.
Yeah.
And then they decide to, even if it means that they'll die.
Yeah. And that's one thing that M. Night Shyamalan pointed out about this is that I think he likes this movie especially just because it starts off in civilization and then progresses down to like small town and then farmland like Pennsylvania. And it's not globetrotting because it's just across a state, but I like
but
that
it's
you
a
see
lot more movement than
Mhm.
we're used to in a Shyamalan story.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think like you mentioned that we don't necessarily see what is chasing them or what the monster actually is. Especially on a rewatch, I saw that the monster is fear. Because the fear is what's driving this entire plot, just because whether it's fear of dying, fear of the unknown, fear of the unknown, which also is linked to all these people, like when they get to that restaurant and they're like just trying to they're just trying to figure out like what's going on. You have like multiple conversations like going on, people like thinking like what this is, and people like sharing like cell phone video, which by the way, Shyamalan said that like that iPhone was like the first time that an iPhone was actually shown on screens, because he filmed this before the iPhone came out, and I think Apple actually came to him and said, hey, "Go ahead and put this in the movie. It's actually like we don't show like the Apple logo, but I think they were totally fine."
Another good example of the caliber of director that he was at that point. If the MCU was around, they would have put it in one of those movies, but at the time, this is a huge product launch and would change the world, and they were like, put it in the Shyamalan film.
Then they saw the movie and they're like, "Oh,
is it too late to get our logo out of there?"
I don't think the logo is actually shown just because the product wasn't out yet, but
Yeah.
I just like that you have all this information like being thrown at you, and conspiracy theories get thrown around, much like today, where we have everyone talking, everyone kind of spouting a bunch of BS. You don't know what to believe. You're just scared just because you don't know if you're going to die from this. You don't know if your family's going to die from this. So that's what I got from it, especially on rewatch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fear is the monster, but
yeah, absolutely. And fear and crowds. If you're afraid on your own, anyone with anxiety can relate perhaps to what I'm about to say, but if the fear exists just within you, you can hide and you can pretend it's not there, and I'm going to go about my own business, but when you're in a crowd, fear is totally different. And now you can't ignore it, and you can't just stand up and say to everyone, we're going to ignore this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I get that all the time, and especially like this film just hits a little bit too close to home, especially after going through a pandemic like we went through, just because it's just so much of the unknown you're not sure about. And like another part of the fear too is like when everyone decides to, like, after they see like that cell phone video and everyone freaks out and they leave like the restaurant in like a panic. Mark Wahlberg and John Leguizamo and his daughter, they're trying to get a car and they're asking people like, "Hey, can we get a ride?" And they're like, roll up the window and they're like, "No," and they drive off. That's another level of fear because people are just trying, like, when people are scared, they want to protect the people close to them. They don't want to necessarily let anyone else in. So I thought that was also like really interesting. Except protect the people close to them, except for the two people that were going to give them rides that they didn't even know.
Right.
Which we get introduced to the Plant Daddy. I call him Plant Daddy.
Yes.
But and then who are the other two? Did John Leguizamo know that those people in the Jeep, or they were just going in the same direction?
No, so John Leguizamo's wife is buying a dollhouse.
Was it a? Oh yeah, a dollhouse. I thought it was a birdhouse, but
Yeah. No, she's buying a dollhouse, and she's in Jersey, and so John Leguizamo comes up to them and he's, "Hey, I want you to take my daughter. I need to go find my wife. These people are heading to Jersey." And this is another kind of blink if you miss it, like, not, I don't want to say deep, but it's a deep movie connection. The driver who is driving the vehicle to Jersey is the actor Brian O'Halloran, who...
Okay, hold on.
Oh, did I freeze?
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Who is an actor in all of the Kevin Smith movies. And if you go to Brian's Letterboxd page or IMDb, you'll see he does not often act outside of those Kevin Smith movies, which all take place in New Jersey. I don't think that Kevin was randomly auditioning for a bit part with no lines in an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and he just so happened to be the driver to New Jersey. That's Shyamalan giving a nod. Like you said, he puts all of his movies in Philadelphia. That's him giving a nod to another hyper-localized group of actors who make everything in their town.
And also, just that they're always in comedies, too. This is M. Night Shyamalan saying, this movie's a comedy.
Yes. And Leguizamo. We didn't really talk about him. Yeah. And certainly, John Leguizamo, I think, is very talented. And he's made a real effort to also put out like some educational stuff lately, which is really cool. But he's a comedic actor. He's a funny guy. Yeah, I think all the signs... I don't think you have to read into this movie to see that it's a comedy. You just have to pay attention and not be rolling your eyes the whole time.
You gotta surrender yourself to what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously you have this split up situation between John Leguizamo and his daughter, not happy with the situation. And is this before? Did Mark Wahlberg already give his daughter the mood ring, or does it happen after? Because
I think it happens like here.
I think so. I think it does.
It's right around here because they're trying to like make her feel better.
Yeah, they're trying to make her feel better, and I think what I love most about that mood ring is because this is like a total Shyamalan thing. Like once that mood ring gets introduced, you see it on Elliot's or Mark Wahlberg's like hand, and during certain situations, you'll see it change color. That's something that
it's cool.
No other director except for Shyamalan, maybe like a handful of them, would reference that. But Shyamalan just loves playing with color and just loves introducing something and then paying it off. I love that. But John Leguizamo, he leaves to go find his wife, and he then eventually dies because they're in the Jeep and the Jeep roof is leaking, and he's just, oh my god.
Yep.
And really brutal scene too when they're driving through like those bodies that were hanged.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That's a brutal scene.
Yes.
Yeah, it's insane, but
yes. And that's I think all of the violence, I think they had to make a decision. This is going to be funny except for the violence. You don't have somebody like put their hand in a blender and then be like,
kind of like you don't have something like the monkey. Yeah.
It's not like The Monkey. Where actually, like, I'm glad you brought up The Monkey because
Hmm.
that's a very similar story where
Hmm.
people go into it. Everyone is high off of lawn legs. They're high on Osgood Perkins. They're ready for the next scary movie. And I know that a lot of people will label The Monkey as a horror comedy. I actually believe that it is only a comedy, that there is no horror, there's gore, and there is a big difference
Hmm.
between horror and gore. You can have a horror movie with no gore whatsoever. And he proved you can have a comedy that is full of gore, but everything in that is funny. There's
Hmm.
nothing, there's no tension, there's no suspense, there's really no buildup of any kind. The scene where brief spoilers for The Monkey, but there's a kill involving a bee's nest, and we're ramping up to this moment with the bee's nest, but even that is comical. And then the payoff death from that is so absurd.
Yeah.
And audiences were really torn on The Monkey too, and they hated it. They were like, they walked away. What on earth was that? So yeah, I think that both of them will go down as the same kind of problem.
Yeah, like for sure. And that just came to me just because I was just like, we're talking about comedy and like horror, and they really are pretty similar to what M Night was doing, and then what Osgood Perkins is doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, then to get back to John Leguizamo's death, basically, does he drive the car, or is it the person drive, or
I think that,
Brian?
yeah, Brian O'Halloran is still driving the car, I
And
believe.
he like the car stops, and then that's like when you realize, oh, something's wrong, because it just
Hmm.
stops out of nowhere and just drives it into a tree.
Yep.
And someone goes flying through the window, not John Leguizamo. He's totally fine, and then he gets out and then cuts his wrists and then dies, which
Yep.
really shot very interestingly, because usually when someone is big a star like John Leguizamo, they normally need like the close-up shots.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a big star. We
Right.
gotta make sure they have a important death scene. He just dies a little, not off camera, but far away from the camera. I think it just Shyamalan just wanted to show like the impact of everything that just happened. But brutal death scene. Then we cut back to Zoe Deschanel and Elliot Alma, and then John Leguizamo's daughter. They're like still going through, and then is this when we meet up with Jeremy Strong?
I believe so, yeah, because they come to, it's not quite like a T in the road, it's more like a Y in the road.
Yeah,
And they can go to the left or they can go, and then they start to, he waves them down, and he's like, oh, you can't go that way, and then I just came from this way, you have to head back where you're going. And yeah, that's when they let him know, oh, it's happening everywhere.
yeah, it's happening. I'm just kidding. No,
Great title. I think it's,
yeah, great title. But yeah, then they meet up with Jeremy Strong, and he's just that's when you get the cheese and crackers versus where you just really no, they don't. I don't think they meet up with him yet, because then they go back to the Plant Daddy's house,
yeah,
and they
that's the hot dog thing.
yeah, that's the hot dog thing. He's just, man, hot dogs get a bad rap. I really like
Mhm.
hot dogs. They're just full of protein, and they're just the perfect length. And I'm like, when he's I don't know what Shyamalan was going for there, whether it was like a dick joke or something. I don't.
It's
Just
possible sometimes in bad horror B movies, you'll just have these characters and they're just going off on a random weirdo
yeah,
conversation. I know that I'm defending this movie and him a lot, but to me, it's like, all right, this is reminiscent of
yeah,
someone who doesn't know how to write a movie, which again, we know is not Shyamalan, right?
yeah.
We know that he knows how to write a movie. Yeah.
It also, since like we mentioned, like Shyamalan wanted to make a B movie, and like he wanted it to specifically be in theaters. It's almost like he wants B movies to be played in theaters. It's like like Shyamalan loves like all movies, and he think by making a movie like this, it's watch more movies, guys.
Yeah.
You can get like all these feelings from all the movies that you watch, like that come out. But
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Another movie that was very poorly received and was a director who was like, hey, I've had some success. Now I'm going to do this thing that I want, was Beau is Afraid,
Yeah.
which is another, people didn't know how to take it. And again, it's look at the cast.
Yeah.
These are all comedians. Like you have Nathan Lane doing legitimately like one of the funniest performances of the last 4 years
Yeah.
in this movie. But because it's so violent and so dark, people are like, oh, I do not want to live. And obviously, like with Osgood Perkins, you know, how quickly it came out after Long Legs. Clearly, some things were already in motion, but it's just funny. You have these three different directors who love movies, who have written and directed like really high watermark The Sixth Sense, Hereditary, and Long Legs. And some people didn't like Long Legs, so maybe it's not as universally loved. But and then they make these follow-ups, and people don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey guys, isn't this really funny?" And everyone's like, "What is wrong with you?"
It's almost you can't really put like a certain director in one box. Like even
Right.
the like directors that only do one thing, not every director only does one thing because that would get boring.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that Shyamalan and like all these other directors are branching out and learning to do like other things like comedies and like The Village is like a romance basically
Sure.
is a romance, but I want to see Shyamalan do like a musical next.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. I
That
know
would
we're
be
kind of
really
gassing
great.
him up at this point, but you
No,
could do anything. But this is
I think that there are certain directors who they have success and they're able to try different things and they're able to rebound. Some people find they have to get back into their lane. I think that happened to Shyamalan a little bit.
Yeah.
He tries to do Avatar, which is the huge, big Hollywood IP blockbuster thing. Then like it crashes and burns. He tries to do After Earth, which is just full on sci-fi,
Yeah. To be
and it
fair,
doesn't work.
After Earth isn't. I haven't gotten to that yet in the series, but After Earth wasn't technically like his movie. I don't think he wrote. I think he came in as a second writer. Gary
Mm.
Whitta also wrote some of them. I have my opinions on Gary Whitta,
Mm.
but so I think After Earth was more of like that. He's in movie jail and he's just trying to do
Right.
whatever. But we'll get to After Earth when we get to After Earth.
Sure,
but,
sure.
But because I can defend that movie for days. But
Really?
yeah,
Ah, see that one. I actually think everyone always cites Avatar as his worst.
I can defend
Um,
that movie too.
and you know what? I watched it having not watched the cartoon. And so for most everyone that discredits me already. But I like truly expected I was like, all right, here we go. Ah, ready to watch the worst movie ever. And then I watched it and I was like, that's what young adult kid movies are like. They all
Yeah,
suck in the same way.
yeah.
This was fine. And anyway, I thought
Well,
that I think After Earth is his worst movie. I think
yeah,
Avatar is better.
yeah.
They're still
We'll
bottom two to me, but yeah.
we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
But I just realized as I was like saying I want him to do a musical. Trap's a musical, so
That's true.
yeah.
That's true. And you know what? Those parts were cool. Yeah.
They're great. They're great. But yeah, back to the happening. We're with Plant Daddy, and I like that I keep calling him Plant Daddy. But
Yeah.
this is like when you're getting he's planting the seeds, no pun intended, that grass and like the trees are like spreading like this deadly toxin or whatever.
Yeah.
This is where when I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, this is when the conspiracy theories start coming in. Just because we got all this during COVID where people are like, where did COVID come from? Did it come from a lab? Was it a bioweapon? Was it like, maybe it was just natural and we're like,
Right.
it's the earth kind of fighting back at the human race. And I got that totally from everything that Plant Daddy was like spewing out. And
Yes.
and I just thought that was really interesting just because this movie's timeless in a way, just because of
Yep.
everything we went through. But yeah, then we leave Plant Daddy's house. We meet Jeremy Strong, like we mentioned. He does the cheese and crackers, and then they meet up with bigger groups. That They like form like they meet up with these other people, and they're like, "Oh, we got to stay together." Is it something like they got to stay together just because the bigger they are, then it's. I didn't get that. That was hard for me to get across.
Yeah.
Because when an apocalypse happens, like personally for me, I want to get away from people. So I thought that was like a weird way to come to a solution. Oh, these people seem cool. Let's walk together. And then obviously that it was bad because Jeremy Strong's character starts yelling out of nowhere about his gun or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
And then what is really interesting is that you don't see his character die. You don't see him shoot himself. You just hear multiple gunshots as the wind is picking up, and Alma and Elliot and Leguizamo's daughter, they just start running. And before all that, before they start running, Elliot is just standing and he's, I gotta think for a second. I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't think? It's that classic thing that happens in like those type of movies where one character just has to like stall for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta think of a plan. I'm like, think on the fly. Come on. It's
think later.
Yeah. What's the phrase? Run now, think later. Whatever. I don't know. It's just
usually it's shoot now, ask questions later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Shoot first, ask questions later. Which is like what the movie does. It's like Jeremy Strong shot first, and then and then Alma was saying, "Ask questions later. Let's run." And then after they start running, they get to the house. We already talked about that kind of graphic stuff, like when they But yeah, do you have any thoughts about everything that happened, like up until that point, about them running and like how that scenario just breaks down?
It is scary once they're like, oh, split up, and then they start running in different directions. You do see the wind, and I think that Shyamalan is good at building tension. And even in a movie where you're like, okay, this is really stupid, people are still dying in really horrific ways, and there are stakes. It's not just, oh, haha, walking through and silly stuff is happening. It's, oh my God, like, main characters, like characters from the beginning of the movie, John Leguizamo, you're seeing these people like die, and and then with the kids, when the kids die, you're like, oh my God, am I gonna watch this little girl like kill herself? This is so he's still employing like his tool bag, you know what I mean? He hasn't forgotten how to ramp up, and so I think that this part's scary. Yeah,
it's definitely really scary. And the part that I really like, because like, this movie's funny, it's scary, but it's the calm moments that I really like. It's when I think they're done running away from all the gunshots, and Mark Wahlberg basically takes like John Leguizamo's daughter and sits her down next to the road, and they just have this. She's obviously terrified, like scared of I think it's after those kids die, like at the house, and they run away from that, and Elliot takes the daughter and sits her down next to the road and just like calms her and hugs her. And it's just beautifully shot with like the light coming in behind them. And it's like a moment of peace at that moment where it's just like they just went through something horrific and they are using each other to calm each other down. I just really like that a lot. And it goes back to what I was saying, how Shyamalan uses kids to show what these people are going through, like their emotions, is because children they haven't seen any of this before, so he likes to show their emotions, and they have a sense of wonder and what's going on. Which also, like, going back to the beginning of the movie, I like how the cinematographer also highlights kids, like when they're on that train, and like what they're going through, and I was focused on the kids and how they're reacting to all these people packed out on that train as they're going out to the country, just because they're just out of school. They're like, oh, free.
Right.
Sweet. Just like how when kids, like when schools were shut down during the pandemic, they're like, oh yeah, I'm out of school.
Right.
I can just do homework for 2 hours and play video games after that. And then the gravity of the situation starts to hit them. I think Shyamalan illustrates that really well here. But yeah, then after we talked about the graphic house sequence, and then I think we talked about the lawnmower, the person dying from the lawnmower. That's just like a quick death scene. I don't think they don't necessarily talk to the guy that kills himself there. You just
kind of see it from afar, right?
Yeah. it's just letting the audience know that stuff is still happening. And then this is when we get to the third act of the movie where they get to the old lady's house and they're like,
Yeah.
I think the scariest thing in the entire movie, to be honest, because there's nothing scarier than an old lady, like two old ladies, like in a house that I wouldn't have gone in that house, to be honest, because they, like, especially when they have the gas masks on. This is super funny shot of them being introduced, of them just watching, like, on TV with, like, full-on gas masks, because they're afraid to, like, breathe in whatever's outside.
Yeah.
And
filmmakers know the scariest thing on planet Earth is old white people.
yeah.
Time and time again, all you need to do is just show an old person, and we're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're wearing a mask. That's like another thing too, especially after the pandemic. Whenever I saw like face masks, I was like, oh, I get a little shivered up my spine too.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute, what's happening?
Exactly.
Yeah, is it happening again? Yeah.
Is it
and
happening?
No shade to people who still wear masks when they go out. And I thought it was funny when the pandemic was in full swing and everyone was like, oh, don't wear masks. And because people in Asian countries have worn masks when they're not feeling well or during cold seasons forever.
Or for pollution too.
Yeah, for pollution and stuff. And so I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure like dentists and doctors wear masks and they do that for a reason to prevent things. So I don't know. There's got to be something to it.
They're fine. But yeah, we get introduced to the scary old ladies. They invite them into the house. That's one thing. If I were to nitpick a little bit, like the people at the house that shot the kids, they wouldn't let them in. But the old white ladies with gas masks, maybe because they're protected, they're like, oh, let's help these people out. They're in distress. And then some of the scariest like imagery like comes up, like when this. You already brought it up a little bit, but Mark Wahlberg talking to a plant.
Yes.
I love how he's just, oh, it's okay. We're only going to be here for a few minutes. And then he's like, oh, it's plastic.
Yep.
I'm talking to a plastic plant.
It's funny. It's funny.
I don't think I've had a bigger belly laugh in a while, but on this rewatch, I was like rolling on the floor laughing because he was so serious. He played it so seriously, and it's really upsetting to me. I hope, like, in the year of our Lord 2025, if I were to meet Marky Mark or Mark Wahlberg and bring this movie up, I would love to ask him if he feels any different about this movie in 2025. Right. Just because there's some people loving this movie, and they're starting to get it now. They understand it's a comedy, and I think Mark Wahlberg played it pretty well. Like, through this entire movie.
I think intentional or not, he is very funny in it. And what I have found over the last few years of defending the movie, it does seem to now be more like 50-50. I'll see someone online say, hey, I'm watching this movie for the first time. And I hop on and I'm like, yes, let me know what you think. You don't want to sway people one way or the other. And it seems like some people really get it and then some people don't. But that's a vast improvement because back in the day, no one liked this. Yeah. Everyone hated this movie.
Yeah. They're like, oh my God, what's going on here? But
yeah, so we're making progress.
Yeah, progress is always good. But yeah, we get Mark Wahlberg talking to a plastic plant and he's embarrassed. And then we get the scene where he sees like it's like the doll. Like, he thinks it's like a body laying in the bed.
Yeah.
And he just walks through the door. He's like, huh? He's okay? Okay? And I think probably this jump scare got me because I don't know what was happening. I've seen this movie multiple times. I still don't know what's happening at this point. You get a jump scare of the old lady just come like walking right behind, just, what are you doing? And I'm just like, oh God. Just huge jump scare. And I usually don't like jump scares, but I think it's done pretty well. And then you get she asks, what are you doing here? You're stealing from me. And you get the infamous line. Seth, do you want to do the line?
What? Yeah, you go for it.
Just, what? No, I'm not stealing from you. What? No.
Oh, you're right. Yes. It's good. I think it's good.
And then
And
she
you know why it's good? Do you know why it's good? Because this movie, you can pull so many funny, silly Mark Wahlberg deliveries from. Where, what other movies are they doing that from? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's not like he's doing that in every single movie that he's in.
yeah.
And I defend Mark Wahlberg a little bit, usually because people point to this movie. Oh, see how terrible he is. And so, no, this doesn't really count. But yeah, Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Like, he's the lead in Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me he's a bad actor? Come on.
Yeah. I would point to where he's bad at just Uncharted movie. That movie.
Yeah, that I haven't seen. I can't speak to that. I know
Yeah.
people don't like him in The Departed.
I
I
haven't
think that
seen
he,
The Departed.
yeah, I think he
Yeah.
fits right in with everyone else. And
Yeah.
he's actually from Boston, so
Mhm.
everyone in that movie is doing a crazy Boston accent.
Yeah.
I think he fits in fine with everyone in that. He meets the tempo of the movie. So
He just
yeah,
fits in. He fits in with,
yeah,
wherever he's at. Like the other guys, he fits in well, like next to Will Ferrell.
yeah, precisely.
But yeah, then like after that interaction, the old lady just leaves and go outside because apparently she gets infected by the wind or whatever. And she goes outside, and I thought she was gonna. The first time I watched this, I thought she was like gonna go into a grave or something like that, and that's how she was gonna die. But she starts walking backwards, and then that Shyamalan using the seeds that he planted before. Like when people walk backwards, like that's usually not a good sign.
Yep.
And she runs into runs into the window and cuts like her face.
Oof.
That's how she dies.
Oof.
Just brutal stuff happening.
Yep.
And then that's when Elliot he goes to find like Alma and the daughter, and says, "You got to close the windows and the doors." And this is where I understand, like you brought this up about them like being separated.
Yep.
I get confused a little. Maybe you can help me out here. I get confused like where everything is happening.
No,
like,
I'm right there with you.
Okay,
I'm right there with you. Yeah.
They're in two rooms.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg's by himself. Alma's with the daughter in another room, and then they start talking to each other. It looks like I thought it was like a two-way, like the cups that used to use, like
it's
like a pipe.
It's a pipe. It's like a pipe, right?
Yeah, but then Marcus is, "Oh, I don't want to die alone here. I want to die with you," because it's really reminiscent to like stuff that happens during COVID, where it's just like being quarantined with someone, being quarantining to protect someone.
Yep.
But you're isolated yourself, and you're just like, I can't take this anymore. I gotta see you and hug you.
Yep.
But then this is where I get confused about where stuff, because I thought they're like right next to each other. Mark's like Elliot is like at the house across, and they meet.
Yes,
each other.
there's like a field separating them.
Yeah, there's a field separating them. So how are they talking to? I don't know. I would love to talk to M. Night. Just be like, what's going on here?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think there must be something that I miss each time, or maybe there was like a mini deleted scene or something. But
yeah. Maybe it's I thought for a second it was like an underground tunnel or something like that, but he would have gone underground, not have to go outside and risk himself like getting infected. But yeah, I'm glad that I'm not alone there, to be honest, because I was like, okay, I understand they have to meet each other outside and realize that everything's safe and they don't have to worry about dying and stuff like that, but it felt really weird. But yeah, everything's fine for them for some reason. Like they're okay because they love each other. They're all about family.
That's right.
And then we cut to 3 months later, and I guess they're married, or they've been married. They had a rough patch. They're trying to like heal their marriage, and then they adopted John Leguizamo's daughter, and everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Like all.
But then we go across the world.
Oh yeah, this is the happening too.
Yeah.
This is M. Night Shyamalan doesn't do sequels unless it has superheroes in it.
Yeah.
But you know what? Seeing this, especially on a rewatch, I want him to just revisit The Happening. Just The Happening 2. That's his next movie. I'm forcing him.
The Happening do.
The Happening, because it's French. I get
Yep.
it.
Yep.
But yeah, I like how it's because I like how he goes to like what's happening like in France, because before that you see Almach watching like on the news, like it looks like an Alex Jones situation. People are like talking about what happened, and saying it was like it's the Earth, like warning us, like this is a warning, and they're like, oh, it only happened in Philadelphia. It's okay. It's probably like a government attack. But then Shyamalan's just, or was it just Philadelphia? Because
Right.
this is a more global thing. I like him bringing that up by saying, oh, it's what if it was global? Just but yeah. But that's the happening. But
Yeah.
yeah.
We didn't mention briefly just there. You said Mark Wahlberg and Zoe Deschanel. They're having troubles.
Oh,
Oops.
oh, you're good.
Sorry, that's my payroll
Oh,
uh, alarm.
okay.
Just in case I forget to run payroll,
Okay.
I still have an hour before the deadline.
Okay. We'll wrap this up real quick.
Oh no, I'm done already.
Okay.
Okay, I'll say that again.
No, I'll help because at the beginning of the movie, we like I mentioned a little bit where they like Alma and Elliot having trouble with their marriage just
Yeah.
because you see tension there. And what I like is that you see throughout them going through like this experience, you see them healing and Alma starting to see like I don't know if Shyamalan ever said like they had a son or a daughter, but if they did like maybe something happened to like their kid or something like that, and Alma held it against him probably.
Yeah, yeah.
And like throughout the movie, Elliot like calm and treat the daughter, and
Yeah.
and they start healing like healing their relationship and all the stuff that happened like in those two buildings that we already talked about how it didn't make sense, but like where they were located, but the interaction that they had. Oh, I love you. Just
Yes.
typical movie stuff. But yeah, what were you gonna say about that?
It's two of the funniest things in the movie,
Yeah.
which is that she went to meet someone for tiramisu.
Oh
And
yeah.
I
Oh,
think that's Shyamalan's cameo in this, right?
yeah. Joey.
Yeah, he's the tiramisu guy.
Yeah, he's on the phone there because I think in the credits it says voice of
Yes.
Joey. So he's the lover, the
Yes.
lover of Alma.
And
Like,
then my favorite line in the movie is
Is it-
later on
is it cough syrup?
yes, when he's trying to reciprocate the jealousy and just be like, "Hey, you weren't the only one."
Yeah.
And I'm going to read it for you because I love it so much.
It's great.
He says, "If we're going to die, I want you to know something. I was in the pharmacy a while ago. I went up and asked her where the cough syrup was. I didn't even have a cough, and I almost bought it. I'm talking about a completely superfluous bottle of cough syrup, which costs like $6. Come on,
You don't
that's
have
hilarious.
conversations like that, but it's hilarious.
But yeah, I will think about that line all the time. I'm talking about a completely superfluous bottle of cough syrup. It's great.
I think you should, since you said before we started recording, you're trying to battle a cold right now. You should go up to your wife and be like, "Hey, I almost bought this superfluous bottle of cough,"
Yep.
and see what she says.
My apologies if you're listening to this and you hear me sniffling or
You sound
whatever.
great. You sound great.
I'm on the verge of a cold here, but what I would do is I would get a tattoo of a bottle of cough syrup with a banner over it that says superfluous.
That I love it. I love it. But yeah, that's a great line. Like it just, and I take that back. I could probably cut that part out, but obviously, like they Alma was cheating on Elliot. I don't think they could have had a kid or something like that. Maybe that's why she was upset. But I think that's left up for our imagination. But
yeah, I think a lot of things are left up for your imagination. If it was the bees, or if it is Mother Nature, or if it's a defense mechanism, or if it's the trees, or whatever.
Yeah, or fear, like I said.
Or fear. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that was the happening. Any final thoughts, Seth, on
We should let artists be artists and not be in genre boxes. And
yes?
when movies like The Happening and Beau is Afraid and The Monkey plummet at the box office, and then we complain
Mm-hmm.
everything is formulaic, this is why everything's formulaic,
Mm-hmm.
folks. If you can't handle Shyamalan at The Happening, then you don't deserve him at his The Sixth Sense.
Yeah,
And you know what? Maybe it just doesn't work. And maybe things should be a formula and we should stick to genre. But I think we should let people make the type of stuff that they want to make.
exactly. Make the stuff that you want to make, and like when they do that, like you said, people should go out and see it. And even if they don't like it, they don't have the right to complain. Oh, they don't make movies like they used to. They don't make original movies. And I'm like, support the movies like this that are doing something cool and interesting.
Yep.
I know we've been gassing up this movie a lot, but we
Yep.
both really love this movie a lot. I don't think it's my favorite movie in
No.
his filmography, but it's charming. It has that M. Night Shyamalan wit, the little
Yep.
twinkle in its eye, like when you're watching it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I feel like on this rewatch, I might bump it up to a 4 maybe, just because I just think it's so darn funny. But
Yeah, I'm at a 4 with it. And on my scale, 4 is great movie. So I do think it's a great movie because you have all this budget and all this talent, and you just are like, let's do something like, and now a silly one. Like it's when you're taking a group photo and then you're like, okay, now let's do a silly one. That's
right,
what this movie is. And
it's a
I
perfect way to
love
describe it.
I love that got to happen, and I was really tickled, like genuinely laughing, not just haha, I'm gonna be a contrarian and I'm gonna say that I love The Happening. And like you said, this is nowhere near my favorite of his films. My God, those first few. I'm even a fan of what's the one? Oh, I Wide Awake?
Oh yeah, his first.
Yeah, the one with the little kids. I watched that
Yeah.
movie as a kid. Like before The Sixth Sense came out. I remember watching that and just being very emotionally impacted by that. Like he made a kids movie that really dealt with some very intense things for a kid. If you watch that movie as an adult, you'd be like, okay, this is like really on the nose and it's a little bit much. But I can personally tell you,
Yeah.
if you saw that as a kid, it was intense.
I think we might do a bonus episode for that one because we're mainly just covering like his main ones, but maybe
Yeah,
like for the Patreon to cover that one. But the
sure.
one thing I do know about Wide Awake though is that Shyamalan always likes to bring that movie up because his first movie ever, Praying with Anger,
Yeah.
it's the only movie that he's made with all Indians, like all
Mm-hmm.
like South Asian like actors, and he showed it to his family, and his dad walked up to him like after the screening, and it's just like I'm not South Asian, but most of my South Asian like friends like say that this is what happens like when you have South Asian parents and you're South Asian yourself. And he walks up to him and says, "He's M Night." Probably didn't use M Night, but I'll just use it for that. So he's M Night is not a good movie, but so next time, don't put Indians in your movie anymore. Only white people. It's
Wow.
And M Night's just, thanks. And I guess he took that to heart because no white people or no Indians except for Last Airbender. But we won't talk about that. But or at least no South Asians in his movies that are in major roles. But
Right.
I just think that's funny. He really took that to heart. But yeah, that's The Happening. I love this movie a lot. It's really great. But yeah, this is the part of the show where Seth, you get to tell the people who've been listening where they can find you online.
If you still want to find me after all that, I co-host a show called Movie Friends with my friend Michelle. We discuss we discuss movies based on monthly themes, and the general premise of the show is usually it's a film that Michelle hasn't seen, sometimes it's one that I haven't seen, and we're not super interested in giving a bunch of information or like doing deep dives into stuff. We really just like to record our conversation, what the movie
Mhm.
meant to us, our experience with it, because we're trying to explore like what subjectivity is and what is a movie when you haven't grown up with it, in Michelle's case. And for me, like, what does it mean to show someone a film that I think is the greatest ever and maybe she thinks is just okay? And so it's a real, that makes it sound a lot more serious than it actually is. It's very silly and funny,
Yeah.
but we're really trying to build a more community based show. A lot of our show is input from people online. And yeah, so that's why it's called Movie Friends. Right now, we're recording this in March. I don't know
Mhm.
when this will go out, but
About 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
yeah. So we'll be wrapping up our series on Nick Cage. We did.
Oh, jeez.
We're doing a whole month.
You know what?
It's
A month.
really crazy.
A month is good for Nick Cage because you don't want to turn out like a Abed from Community.
Yeah, honestly, I think we could. I think we could easily do 2 months and not cross the same type of Nick Cage twice.
Yeah, for sure. He's got a lot of movies. He's got a lot of movies.
Like, for example, we're doing this one, which was one that I hadn't seen before, called "It Could Happen to You," and I just watched it, and I was like, "Oh my god, he's a totally different guy." We did Pig, then we did Vampire's Kiss, and then we did Raising Arizona. That's three completely different performances, different people. You could do Willy's Wonderland, that's different. You could do Mandy, that's very different. The Weatherman, National Treasure. There's a lot. There's a lot of. But anyway,
he
so yeah,
crosses all of the spectrum, much like the
yeah.
Movie Friends podcast.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll by the time this comes out, we'll be wrapping up Cage Month, and then we'll be heading into sports. We're gonna be doing sports for April
Oh,
for the first time ever. We've done
so
like no sports movies after 2.5 years. It's gonna be exciting.
that will be exciting because that could go so many different ways, just like Cage. Because
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
for sure. But everyone should go listen to the Movie Friends podcast. Follow them on all the social media, and you got a website too, right? Movie Friends Podcast.
MovieFriendsPodcast.com.
Yeah, but yeah. Also, we have a website as well, thereallovers.com. People should check out that website, listen and read the stuff that I have to say about movies because social media is dying. So,
Yeah.
but if it's not dying for you, you can still follow me pretty much everywhere on social media with the username at Marley Loves Film. Most active places currently, as we're recording this, if the world doesn't implode
At the
this
date
point,
of this recording.
yeah, will be Instagram, TikTok, and then YouTube and Blue Sky. Same username across all platforms at Marley Loves Film. I'm really glad that I got that nailed down.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you made it this far, please give us a like here on YouTube. If you're watching here on YouTube, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. And Seth, thank you for joining me for
Hey,
this deep dive.
absolutely. You know what? I enjoy this so much. I would do it all again.
I know, right? Almost like we did that all over again.
Yeah, you never
We'll
know.
We'll leave that in suspense.
Yeah.
But join us next time when we are talking about the famous, the infamous, the most hated film in M. Night Shyamalan's filmography. Maybe is it the most hated? The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, should be a fun discussion there. And yeah, Seth, thank you. And we'll see you later.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good opportunity to talk about a great film.
Yeah. And let's get back to the movies.